Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Flatout Racing Network's coverage of the 10th race of the season for the Reaper Speedlab Truck Series tonight. We are at the track Too Tough to Tame, the Lady in Black. This is Darlington as these drivers prepare for 147 laps, just a tick over 200 miles here in Darlington, South Carolina. I'm Seth Cole, being joined here this evening by Kyle Lawrence. And Kyle, afternoon conditions for these drivers saw a lot of slipping and sliding in practice. These guys are going to have their hands full here for the first few laps of this race for sure.
Yeah, these first few laps, everybody's just gonna try to get into their positions and really work on those tires if they're able to. I was mentioning it right before we went on the air set that if we're gonna see some cautions in this race, Darlington's one of those tracks that tends to go on very long green flag runs. If we're gonna see some cautions in this race, I expect to see them at the very beginning or maybe even at the very end if drivers begin to get a little too aggressive.
We've also had a streak of race tracks that we've been to the last couple of weeks, even the last month, where we talk about tire conservation. Maybe no more so is that prevalent than here today. Talk about the slick conditions, but just naturally, Darlington is one of those particular tracks that will eat up the good years. And so it'll be interesting to see just how hard these guys want to push it early on, knowing that we are going to have a stage caution 32 laps into this race.
Yeah, how easy do these guys take it at the beginning of this run? I would expect some drivers to kind of back off here in the first couple of laps and let their tires come to them and try to make up some spots before they get to that stage break at lap 32 you mentioned there, Seth.
Capturing the pole position here tonight is going to be Boyd Hogan, looking for his league-leading fourth win on the season. As we show you the starting lineup, Christopher Pfeffer, former winner, will line up alongside of him on the front row. We've got 17 drivers that are going to take the green flag here this evening. And we go back to last week at Dover. We ended up seeing a couple of early cautions. Of course, we had the stage break, but from then on out, drivers did a really good job of keeping it clean and green. We ended up pretty much going green from the end of the first stage to the checkered flag to cap off that race. And so the question is, do we see that here again today? Do we see pit road play its part? It'll be interesting to see if these drivers are going to have a little bit of case of deja vu from last week, but it's an entirely different animal here tonight. It is the somewhat high banks of Darlington Raceway, and Boyd Hogan, Christopher Pfeffer, a couple of teammates out of Legacy Esports are ready to bring us down and get us under green.
And the green flag is in the air, 147 laps here at Darlington Raceway. The Lady in Black, the track Too Tough to Tame. Let's see how aggressive these guys want to get there in 1 and 2 and try to set themselves up.
Love that right there. Great jump for the 66 of Christopher Pfeffer. He cleared Boyd Hogan going into turn 1, so Hogan drops back to second. TJ Crampton right now in third, and you see the bright green and black number 81, last week's winner from Dover, Kyle Myers. He'd love a twofer here in the last 2 weeks.
And Kyle Myers looking to maybe snag another victory, and he's right outside of the playoffs coming into this race. We've mentioned it multiple times throughout the season. It's not a win in your system. It's based strictly on points. If he's able to get into the playoffs, currently 3 of his Legacy Esports teammates are at the top of the board. So that would make 4 out of the top 10 drivers Legacy Esports if he's able to get into the top 10 today.
Yeah, it was a big week last week at Dover for Legacy Esports. Not only did they have a 1-2-3 finish at the Monster Mile, but to your point, they come in holding the top 3 spots in the standings. Boyd Hogan, 41 points over current race leader Christopher Pfeffer. Christopher Hill sits third, 74 points back. He took third place over TJ Crampton last week, dropping Crampton back to fourth. We also, in the last couple of weeks, have had a driver that was mired outside the top 20 in the points stands about a month ago, now up inside the top 10 in points, and that's Braxton Duis. Right now, he holds on to that final 10th playoff position as things stand right now. If my math's correct, 19 points over 11th in the standings, Kenny Brady, who is not in the field here tonight.
Braxton Duis, we've mentioned him throughout the season, especially last week at Dover. It looked like he had a pretty strong car, but unfortunately had some bad luck, bad scenarios happen to him. Wasn't able to quite get the finish that he felt like he deserved. But you mentioned it, Seth. He's currently coming into this race 10th in points. If he can continue that consistency, he can make the playoffs.
Of Troy Hutchinson right now in the 5th position. I love the pan camera that we have down the front straightaway. Gives you an idea of whose truck is handling good in the early going. And Hutchinson, a couple of others. I think Kevin Roy I saw a few moments ago get up into the outside wall, sliding on corner exits. So You know, these short stages that we've had the last few weeks have given drivers the opportunity to come down, make the necessary adjustments for the long run as Jamie Knopf back there into a four-wheel slide off of turn 2. He saved it, though. Nice job keeping that truck underneath him. But these drivers, I think they've loved having those early stage cautions to be able to get those adjustments, because just like that, you saw a couple of drivers struggling. They want to be able to get these things planted underneath them. They don't want to be slipping and sliding around for the full 147 laps.
Yeah, this is a well-timed stage break, I would say here, Seth. 32 laps, you already get the feeling on how your truck's going to be on those super long runs once you get to that stage break at lap number 32. So you mentioned it, I think we're going to see some adjustments on pit road from a lot of drivers trying to figure out how to get their trucks going a little bit quicker on the short runs, and we'll see what these trucks do on the long runs and who makes the adjustments when needed.
Okay, so deja vu here, it seems, for Christopher Hill. Remember last week, I think he started the Dover race from 21st and finished runner-up. Here today, he qualified back in the 11th position, and less than 10 laps in, he's already picked up 4 spots up to 7th, just getting around Daniel Simmons moments ago. So he's proven week after week, if he's not able to start up there at the front, he's definitely got a good truck to be able to make passes. And that was something you and I were talking about before we came on the air, was watching these guys in practice, a lot of them running the exact identical same line, very difficult to pass in practice, and we were expecting the same was going to hold true here when the green flag dropped. So far, a couple of drivers have made some moves, but not many in the field.
And it's just so hard to make those passes, especially when you're on even tires, because first of all, it's just hard to complete the pass, and your tires are even with that guy. You can't really get up in front of him and just send it into the corner. When some of these drivers' tires start to fall off, you'll really see the difference in these trucks, and I think they'll be able to make those passes a little bit easier as the run goes on, so.
I'm on board here with Christopher Hill, who just picked up another spot moments ago, getting around James Edens. He's now on the back bumper of Troy Hutchinson, and a couple of ways that you can make passes here at Darlington. One of them, the famed slide job, as you see right there. That's exactly what Christopher Hill is able to do. Kind of straddles the dotted white line on the entrance to turn 3, slides it up in front of the 18 through the center of the corner, gets back to the throttle and drives away on the front straightaway. So that's a textbook pass here at Darlington, and right now looks like Christopher Hill is one of the best in the business of making those passes here, so keep an eye on him in the closing stage of this race for sure. Almost wondering if maybe they might not make any adjustments on that 99 when that stage caution comes out.
Christopher Hill looks blistering quick here at the beginning of the run, but I'm saying that, and we've mentioned the tires a million times already. We're already 10 laps into the race. You have to wonder about Christopher Hill's tires. Maybe he's using up a little too much at the beginning of the run, and we'll see how his truck is at the end of the run, but his truck looks awfully fast here, Seth. He might have the best truck out here tonight, depending on how it handles on the longer run.
Interesting you bring that up, too. I mean, so far, over 10 laps, lap 11 now on the board, still green. We've had a couple of drivers with near incidents, but no caution as of yet. These drivers coming into tonight's race at Darlington, starting with the set of tires that they took the green with. They have 4 additional sets waiting for them on pit road. Seems like that would be enough to get them to the end, but if we end up getting a couple of late race restarts, you know, the ability to save a set or two might be very important in the closing stage, especially with the fact that we've got only 17 drivers take the green flag here tonight. We've been on the regular scene anywhere from 20 to 25 trucks take the green flag, so maybe a slightly smaller field might bring about strategy like that in the closing stages of tonight's race.
We could see a lot of strategy play out, especially if we get some cautions thrown in the mix there, Seth. We could definitely see some strategy calls, some gutsy calls. And if someone saves a set of tires at the end of the race and we get a late race caution, they're going to be able to pass drivers really quick. Because right now, these drivers are running around 29 to 30 seconds. But at the end of their run, they're going to be running 32, 33-second lap times. They're going to fall off a lot before they have to come down.
Well, their lap times have already fallen off, and we've got a battle for the lead. Boyd Hogan, I don't know if he just had a really good turn 4 or if Pfeffer slipped up, but Hogan had momentum. He's going to take the lead going into turn 1, so he let Pfeffer on the initial drop of the green flag enjoy that clean air, waited to reel him in, and now Kyle Myers says, hey, I want to get you both, so it's Legacy Esports 1, 2, 3. Almost a full straightaway back to the 4th place running Christopher Hill, so it's a 3-way battle for the lead. Yes, indeed. So the famed Darlington striped souvenir going to go to the 81 at least up here for the front runners.
Yeah, it looked like right there that the lady in black pulled in Kyle Myers for a kiss right there, Seth. Kyle Myers with a pretty decent hit to the outside wall, but he looks okay. Doesn't look like he has any damage to the right side of that 81 machine. So we have that stage break in around 17 laps. So maybe try to just hold on to that third position. It's Christopher Hill is in his mirror.
Hutchinson back there getting into the wall as he's trying to hold up. I believe that's Braxton Duis for the 8th position. And yeah, these trucks are very durable. They can take a beating. And so getting up into the wall here at Darlington is not necessarily a terrible thing, especially since for the most part we see drivers run as close to that wall as they possibly can, running that high line through the corners. But the thing they have to worry about is that those outside safer barriers kind of suck you in and they don't want to let you go. That loses you time, that loses you speed, and more often than not loses you a position or two.
Especially, it's especially difficult getting into the wall in front of a group of drivers. We haven't seen it really happen yet, but if you're a driver and you're just getting a little too close to that wall and you snag the wall, you mentioned it's that the safer barriers just kind of pull you in and you kind of get stuck on the wall for a second there. You have all these drivers behind you. You can either turn left in front of them or you can turn yourself right back into the wall. I've had to do it myself just so I don't wreck anybody.
Boyd Hogan showing the way here as we're more than halfway to the stage caution. He'll come out at the completion of lap 32. And I was kind of thinking about Boyd Hogan coming into tonight. 3-time winner on the season. He is right now the only driver that has had multiple wins on the year. All the other former winners this season have a 1 in the win column. But Boyd Hogan, his last win was about a month ago at Richmond, so you have to wonder just how hungry he is to get back to victory lane. His finishes, despite not winning in the last 3 weeks, have been stellar. He's been able to open up the points gap now between himself and second place Christopher Pfeffer, but obviously you put that helmet on, you mash the throttle when the green flag drops, you want to be the first one back to that checkered flag. Been a little bit of a winless streak for the driver of the 96.
Yeah, Hogan's been strong all season long. I wouldn't worry too much about it. I think he'll most likely will end up in the victory lane before we even get to the playoffs again. Hogan's just been so dominant. One of the top cars anywhere we've gone this season. Top 3 or a top 5 truck anywhere we've gone. And his main competitors have been his teammates like Pfeffer, Hill, Myers last week at Dover. So these Legacy Esports have something. This Legacy Esports team has something really figured out that a lot of these teams have not quite figured out yet this season.
Ooh, Pfeffer might have gotten the wall a little bit there off of turn 4. Looked like he yanked the wheel to the left on corner exit. Yeah, looks like he might have a little bit of right side damage there, but that's going to be, I think, a normal for a lot of these guys during the course of the day. Normally, you can't come to the Lady in Black without leaving with a bit of a souvenir. Oh, he blew up! Christopher Pfeffer in the 66. The engine has exploded on the back straightaway.
Wow, you hate to see it. The number 66, Christopher Pfeffer, started on the pole, might have the quickest truck out here tonight, falling back to the second position. Now he's on pit road with a blown motor. Looked like he made a decent hit to the wall, but enough to lose that motor is insane.
I'm wondering, now let's also look at our weather conditions coming today. Mentioned we're in afternoon temperatures and we're in the triple digits as far as the track temp. These drivers have the opportunity to make any adjustments they want to on these trucks, including how much tape they put on the grill. Could that have possibly been too much tape on the front of the 66, causing the engine to overheat and thus implode?
It is quite possible there, Seth, but I'm not exactly sure. We might have to try to figure that out later in the broadcast, because that was insane to see one of our best drivers out here in the field just blow their motor up from the second position before we even get to the stage break.
What a heartbreak there for Christopher Pfeffer, who was looking for his second win on the season. And let's remember too, no signs really of that engine going south when he was out in clean air, but then after Boyd Hogan got around him, he didn't have the benefit of the clean air to the nose, so that might have caused that temperature to spike. Obviously going to be interesting to follow up that story at the end of this race, but looks like Pfeffer, as things stand right now, he is going to be finishing out tonight in the 17th position. That's a tough break for a guy that had in the last couple of weeks after that trip to victory lane had climbed his way up to second in the point standings and had teammate Boyd Hogan, if not within striking distance, at least was going to be able to continue to try and chip away to the points lead heading into next week.
He's going to have to chip away a little more after the Seth. It's just luckily that it's a smaller field here tonight, so he's not going to lose as many points as he usually would if it was a full field. Only 17 trucks out here tonight, so he's going to lose some points, but he's probably hoping that maybe his teammate Boyd Hogan will have a little bit of issues as well.
Good three-way battle going on here in the the latter spots of the top 10. That's where you find Troy Hutchinson in 8th, Brandon Andrews, who's going to get the wall off of 2, and that opens up the door for Kevin Roy to slide on by and take the 9th position. One thing that we haven't seen here in the early going, and I'm not sure if that it'll change after we get into the second and final stage of this race, but when there's a battle going on, it's almost over as soon as it starts. Usually it's a driver letting another driver on by, or in that case there with Kevin Roy and Brandon Andrews, one driver capitalizing on another driver's mistake. Not sure if we end up having a driver get side by side with another driver, if they'll continue that side by side battle for a lap or two. I think it's more the case of whoever's got the momentum is going to win out, and the other driver has to wave the white flag of surrender pretty quickly to preserve their truck.
And it's quite dangerous to go around this whole entire track side by side. It's definitely possible, Seth, but the two drivers are going to be very nice to each other, give each other plenty of room, and at that point, you're going to be losing a lot of time being side by side.
Kevin Roy, not sure if he ran Hutchinson out of room or if Hutchinson just entered wide. Now Andrews into the wall, trying to go around the top side of the 18, so we're seeing a lot of drivers with pretty mangled right sides, and the 18, the 24, the 89, all there, 8th, 9th, and 10th, they are amongst those as we got a truck up ahead of race leader Boyd Hogan. That's going to be the 4 of Richard Clement. The good news for Clement right now is I don't think that Julio Villalobos Jr. running in 15th would go a lap down before the stage caution. So even if the 96 gets around the 4 here, I think Clement still would be in the free pass position. The question is, though, if you're Boyd Hogan, how much do you force the issue here with Clement to try and put him a lap down, because you're enjoying over 2 seconds back to Kyle Myers?
I say in this situation, if Clement's not going to give you up the spot, I just kind of ride on his bumper. We only have a couple of laps to go. He's most likely going to get to the number 4 within the next lap or 2. So that would only put around 2 laps left in the stage at that point. So it's really up to him. But me personally, I would back off and just stay in behind him until maybe Myers got to my bumper. Then I would have to maybe try something at that point.
Brandon Andrews is in trouble with Richard Malugani. They got together on the back straightaway. No caution coming out for whatever their incident was. Both drivers apparently kept it pointed in the right direction, but they dropped from, I believe it was 10th and 11th, now back to 13th and 14th. So got a lot of drivers that are struggling here on the long run as these tires and that grip starts to go away. But Boyd Hogan, right now, leading in playoff points accumulated, 16 playoff points currently in the bank coming into tonight, and if he's able to close out the deal here, add another playoff point with this stage victory, as Clement going to yield on the inside line, let Boyd Hogan around, and when Hogan hits the line this next time by, going to be 2 laps left in the stage.
I kind of expected that after seeing Hogan's move into 1 and 2. It looked like Clement was willing to maybe try to battle him a little bit there. But when he saw Hogan jump up to the high side, he was not willing to be neck and neck coming off that corner. So he immediately got on the brakes, pulled underneath the line, and let the 96 on by, which I think was a smart move on his case, just to keep that race truck clean, because he's also most likely going to get the lucky dog unless he's involved in an incident.
Got some passes going on here in the closing stages of the first stage of this race. Tanner Love got passed with a slide job by Chuck Waldrop, and you saw right there Jamie Knopf getting around Troy Hutchinson, so that picks him up a point here in this stage from 10th up to 9th, as Boyd Hogan going to come around here and see the proverbial white flag, if you will, here for this first stage. Right now, Hogan, Myers, Hill, Edens, and Crampton, that's your top 5. Deweese, Daniel Simmons, Kevin Roy, Jamie Knopf, and Troy Hutchinson, the top 10, all right now currently in line for points here in this stage. And for a couple of those drivers, Daniel Simmons and Braxton Duis, 8th and 9th, or make that 9th and 10th in points. These are going to be some very important stage points for the 8 and the 46.
Very important points for those two drivers fighting for their playoff lives as the number 96 of Hogan crosses the line in first place for the stage. But yeah, those drivers are fighting for their playoff lives, so every point matters to them.
Big stage win there for Boyd Hogan. Another stage point, or another playoff point, I should say, for him to add to his total, as there was a little bit of chaos back here around the 3rd, 4th position with drivers. Oh, we're still green actually, because the field hasn't yet completed the 32nd lap, so we're still waiting for that caution to fly, it would look like. So these guys are actually still racing each other TJ Crampton, Braxton Duis taking advantage of James Eaton getting into the wall. And surprisingly, yeah, the stage yellow is not out yet.
Yeah, stage yellow has yet to come out. I'm kind of curious on why it has not come out yet. It was supposed to come out at the
There it
conclusion.
is.
There it is. Very late on the caution there, I have to say. But yeah, it was supposed to come at the conclusion of lap 32. 10th driver passes the line, caution flag, and a little late on the caution flag. I don't know how they're going to do the points with that.
Yeah, because at the conclusion of lap 32, James Eaton's had crossed the line in, I believe it was the 4th position. Now with the caution out, got him scored in 6th. So yeah, going to be important to see after this race who gets scored where as far as the stage points go. What we know for certain is that the playoff point in the stage win is going to go to Boyd Hogan, and no shocker, everybody is going to be on pit road here. If you don't come to pit road here under this stage caution, you're crazy.
Another driver that lost a spot, just to add on what you were saying before, Seth. Hutchison did edge out the number 7 of Waldrop to the line for that 10th spot at the end of lap number 32. And now he's in the 11th position, so I would hope he would get points for that, but we'll have to see at the end of the race as the leaders do come down pit road to make that elusive pit stop for 4 tires.
So we talked about the fact of how durable these trucks are. I would say, if not 3/4 of the field, at least half the field have already picked up a Darlington stripe. Do you spend the extra time on pit lane here getting that right side damage repaired? Does it affect you at all for the long run, or do you just let it be and just change those tires, fill it up with fuel, and send it back out?
I think it just really depends on how severe that damage is, Seth. Before Pfeffer had blown his motor, I would have said yes, you should get that repaired. But some of these other drivers that have just like a little Darlington stripe, like the slightest bit of right side damage, I wouldn't worry about it. If it's like 10 or 15 seconds of repairs, I wouldn't worry about it. Just throw some tires and gas on that car and just go back on out there.
Boyd Hogan wins the battle off pit road. Christopher Hill's going to pick up a spot from 3rd to 2nd, leaving pit lane. TJ Crampton comes out there, Braxton Dewis 4th, and Kyle Myers going to lose 3 spots on pit lane in the 5th position. He did spend about 2 seconds extra time in his pit stall, so maybe a little bit of damage repair going on there for the driver of the 81. Daniel Simmons, Kevin Roy, Jamie Knopf, Chuck Waldrop, and Troy Hutchinson going to be the top 10 leaving pit lane. Christopher Pfeffer still sits on pit road despite the engine going south on him in this first stage, and it looks like Richard Clement came down pit road and made the left-hand turn to the garage area. He would have been, I believe, the recipient of the lucky dog under this caution. Also seeing that the 28 of Tanner Love with an extended stay on pit road currently scored 1 lap down.
Tanner Love being that 5th legacy esports driver seems to be struggling a little bit here today at Darlington. He's been strong in a lot of races this season, but has had a lot of bad luck. The driver of the number 28 of Tanner Love, and just seems to be struggling a little bit again here today at Darlington. See if he can make a comeback later on in the day.
So let's remember back to last week at Dover. We ended up seeing a lot of passes for position, but nothing really that aggressive in the first stage of that race. Once we got that first stage completed, though, and the green flag dropped, running to the checkered flag, aggressiveness started to pick up. Definitely drivers realizing that they had to get those positions in the early going while everybody was bunched up. I mean, do we see that here in this one as well at Darlington? Especially with the fact is that we've kind of driven home the point that it's very difficult to make passes here.
Yeah, I definitely expect a little more aggression on this restart compared to the initial start of the race. Just because we could go green the remainder of the race. We can go green from here on out. So a lot of these drivers are going to try to get that track position possibly for the remainder of the race. So I would expect a driver like Kyle Myers to maybe get aggressive and try to get back up into the top 3. Christopher Hill as well, maybe try to get up there and take the lead from his teammate, Boyd Hogan, because he seems like he has a really fast racetrack.
If we end up going into a long green flag run, keep your eye on 3 drivers in particular that, yes, with a little bit of pit strategy, but also with very fast trucks, were able to pick up numerous spots under that first stage. Christopher Hill up 9 spots, Braxton Duis up 8 spots, and 8 spots also picked up for Kevin Roy from their starting positions. So they've got the long run trucks, it certainly seems like, here today, but Boyd Hogan's going to be the control truck. As soon as that iRacing Chevrolet Silverado hits pit lane, he's able to turn us loose for our second and final stage of the evening. Looks like it's going to be 109 laps left in this race here at Darlington.
Green flag is out, and Crampton was not at all ready for that restart on the inside of row number 2. And Myers is now trying to get past him on the high side. Immediately gets shut off by Crampton. And with that happening, the Brax pack number 8, Braxton Duis, moves up to the 3rd position. Now he's on the bumper of Christopher Hill.
Braxton Duis slotting into 3rd, now under fire from TJ Crampton. Crampton taking the checkered flag in the season opener at Daytona, has been up in the top 5 ever since in the point standings, but he is beginning to free fall a little bit. He lost touch with points leader Boyd Hogan. He then lost 2nd in points to Pfeffer, and last week lost 3rd in the standings to Christopher Hill. So trying to get that 61 pointed back in the right direction, make the ascent up the point standings again here tonight. And they're 3 wide further back. Eden's Kevin Roy, and I believe that was the 24 of Brandon Andrews down the back straightaway.
Roy might have gotten into the wall there, or at least really slowed down. Some very hard racing right there around the 8th position here at Darlington Raceway. Some good racing here at the beginning, and it looks like Myers has completed the pass on Crampton. Crampton's going to try to cross him over.
Not able to make the move, it doesn't look like here. Instead, going to follow in the tire tracks, maybe a half groove lower on entry. As Kyle Myers up now to 4th. Remember, Kyle Myers would have probably started 2nd or 3rd on this restart, but a little extra time on pit road. We'll see if whatever damage he repaired, if that's going to help him against the top 3 now, as he's trying to go back to work and getting himself up to where he was 2nd place at the end of stage 2. And I'm going to be interested to watch this here, because we saw Boyd Hogan let Christopher Pfeffer get out in front in the early stages and reel him back in. So he seems to have a good truck in the middle of a run. But Christopher Hill started all the way back in 11th. He's now up to 2nd. He's got just about the best long run truck in the field, and he is right there, about a truck length and a half off the back bump of the 96. So it's really going to be interesting to see here, the longer the run goes on, who saves their truck the best and who's got this faster truck about 20-25 laps into this green flag run.
I have a very good feeling that we're going to be talking about this number 99 and 96 throughout the rest of the race. These two are probably going to be competing for the win throughout most of the rest of this race. They've been both just so strong every week, and they've been competing for the win every week. I mentioned it with Boyd Hogan earlier, how he's been just so dominant and competitive every week, but it's the same thing with Christopher Hill. It's the same thing with Christopher Pfeffer. These 3 guys have been competitive everywhere we go.
Braxton Duis looks like he's going to yield the 3rd position to Kyle Myers there. Move low on the front straightaway. Myers around the top. Braxton Duis realizing that the 81 wants to go, not wanting to use up his stuff and battling him. That's a smart move by Duis. Don't let somebody else determine how you run your race. You set your own pace and let the others around you do what they want to do.
Yeah, Braxton Duis, he's a driver that I've kept an eye on pretty much all season long. Not necessarily one of the fastest drivers out there, but competitive, consistent, and just extremely smart behind the wheel. And that was just a good move right there. He saw how much faster Kyle Myers was and just moved on over for him. We saw how fast Braxton Duis was on that long run last time, so we'll see how he does as this run continues.
Mentioned about Duis consistent, I would put that word in bold letters and underline it 3 times, because that kind of spells out a lot of drivers that are up in our top 10 right now. In the case of Braxton Duis, only 1 top 5 coming into tonight, but John Theodore and Kevin Roy also only have 1 top 5 coming tonight. Jamie Knopf, who's 7th in the point standings, he's got 4 top 10s, but he's yet to finish in the top 5 this season. So consistency is key for these guys to stay up there in playoff spots.
Keep up and try to keep yourself in the race and in the championship, and that's what a lot of these drivers have been able to do so far throughout the season, but still a very, very long season to go here in the Reaper Speedlab Truck Series.
So I'm kind of trying to work the calculator here as far as what kind of strategy we could see play out if we manage to go green from the end of stage 1 now to the checkered flag. We had about 109 laps when we went back green. We know that these drivers can obviously go about 32 to 34 laps on tank of fuel. We're not certain exactly just how far they can go, but let's theorize that maybe they can split this final 110 laps in half, go about 55 laps on a tank of fuel. Is there any advantage, do you think, tire-wise, to maybe trying to split this final run into thirds?
I honestly think that's a huge advantage. Most tracks, I would say no. I don't think that's necessarily the best move, but the tire fall off here is just so extreme. Someone that does a two-strap strategy compared to a one-stop strategy might be able to snag a victory here, Seth.
About 2 truck lengths now from Hogan back to Myers, or make that to Hill. Then another 3 truck lengths, 3.5 truck lengths back to Kyle Myers. Then another 2 truck lengths back to Braxton Duis. Then it's about another zip code before you get back to the 61 of TJ Crampton, who's all by his lonesome. Go back another 2.5 seconds, and that's where you find some battling possibly going on. Daniel Simmons, Jamie Knopf, Chuck Waldrop, James Eden, those drivers right now all trying to, I think at this point, just battle the racetrack and take advantage if there's a mistake up ahead of them.
This is just one of those tracks you just can't battle the other drivers. It's more about battling the racetrack, battling the lady in black. We've seen it many times here. Drivers just kind of move out of the way for one another because they're just racing the racetrack. They're just racing the racetrack, not racing each other, just trying to keep those cars clean, trying to keep the tires on those machines until the end of the run.
Riding on board with race leader Boyd Hogan. Watch the wheel motion. Just how smooth is he going to be through the corners? See a little bit of counter steering there off of turn 2. Those rear tires sliding just a tad, taking away that rear grip, but looks like right now Boyd Hogan's got himself a pretty nice handling truck. Another thing too that I think people take for granted about Darlington is, oh, well, actually we'll get to that in a moment because the caution's out. Brandon Andrews has run into trouble on the back straightaway. First caution for cause here tonight.
Yeah, it looks like Andrews maybe have gotten to the wall and had some help from maybe Hutchison, it looked like. It took a quick peek at it. We'll have to take a look at the replay there, but yeah, Andrews got up into the wall in front of the 18 and made some contact and spun to the inside.
Brandon Andrews has been struggling here tonight. He's been up into the wall a couple of times in the first stage and now battling with Hutchinson for what I believe was around the 12th position. Here's a look at it here as very wide exit out of turn number 2. Off the wall in wrong place, wrong time for Hutchinson as the 24 comes down across his nose. So caution flag comes out, and all right, let's talk pit strategy now, because when they took the green to start this second and final stage, they were running somewhere in the mid-29s. When they took that caution, they were all running around the high 31s, so they lost a ton of time as far as speed. Let's see if they're all going to come pit road. Looks like the answer is yes.
Yeah, they all came down pit road, only around 15 laps on these tires. You mentioned how much they've fallen off. They were running in around the 31-second bracket when that caution flag had came out. Looks like Christopher Hill is going to beat Hogan off pit road. Hogan's very slow off pit road. Myers might have beat him as well. I think he has a penalty. I think the 96 has a penalty.
I think you're absolutely right, as he's crawling off of pit lane. Boyd Hogan, who started on the pole, has led most of this race up to this point. He's going to be starting deep in the field as he's going to drop the back with what I can only assume possibly a pit road speeding penalty. And Christopher Hill's going to be the one to bring us back to green when we eventually get to the restart.
And I'm looking on here. It sounds like that Boyd Hogan had hit the commitment cone coming into pit lane. And that's what gave him the black flag on the number 96 of Boyd Hogan. Has a very fast race truck. So we can get back to the front. But back to what I was originally talking about, the tires in this race. They're only going to have 2 more sets of tires now, Seth. After this pit stop, a whole 100 more laps of 2 sets of tires. If we see a decent amount of cautions at the end of this race, it can get pretty crazy.
So does that now, from this point on, take away a possible 2-stop strategy if we remain green from here to the checkered flag? Does this now, with this caution coming out, put everybody on the strategy of just 1 more stop to the finish if they can make it that far on fuel?
I would think so, Seth. I think that's kind of the best way to go at this point. You can really just try to do the 1-stop strategy if you can make it. If you can make it on a 1-stop strategy, I think that's the way to go from this point forward with this ill-timed caution flag with just under 100 laps to go.
Well, Julio Villalobos Jr. had lost a couple of laps under that last green flag run. Looks like he is going to be electing to take the wave around here when we eventually get the 1 to green. So he will be 1 lap down on this next restart. Tanner Love was the recipient of the free pass under this caution, so he will restart last truck on the lead lap. Looks like that will be in the 12th position. Hutchinson going to lose a lap on pit road with damage repaired. Richard Clement, we had mentioned, looked like he was out of the race. He has since returned back into the server, is back on the racetrack, albeit 5 laps down, and now seeing Brandon Andrews off the telemetry. Not certain if he is officially out of the race or not. We'll follow that up because obviously at some points drivers do come back in and try and log some laps if other drivers run into trouble. So we'll follow up on that one, but right now it looks like we're going to have 15 trucks getting ready to take this green flag at the completion of lap 55 onto 56, and 12 of them currently on the lead lap. Christopher Hill, Kyle Myers going to be your front row.
Legacy Esports on the front row, while the other two kind of in shambles. Hogan to the back of the pack after his penalty. Pfeffer still on pit road getting repairs. He's currently working on 23 minutes of repairs down there. So these guys are going to have to carry the banner for the remainder of the race.
Braxton Duis and TJ Crampton going to make up row 2, and then Daniel Simmons and Jamie Knopf are going to be in the 3rd row. Christopher Hill up through the gears, and he's going to have the early advantage.
Hill immediately
now out.
Good start from Christopher Hill. Looked like Myers was ready for it, him being his teammate. Braxton Duis was pretty ready for it as well, but everybody on back, maybe behind the number 61 of Crampton, was not ready. Like 5th on back, or way back going into 1 and 2, and they're around a half second behind Crampton going into 3 and 4.
I think you touched on this at the top of the program. Kyle Myers, in the position he is in the point standings, just on the outside of the cut line looking in. He is 12th in the point standings, and he is a total of 25 points out of that 10th and final playoff position. As a matter of fact, it's interesting, if you look at all the former winners here this season, you've got most of them up inside of the top 10. The only 2 that were outside the cut line coming into this race, Kenny Brady and Kyle Myers, 11th and 12th. So it's looking right now, even though Kenny Brady's not in the field here tonight, still got a lot of season to work with, but right now those 2 guys have a shot of being able to point their way up there as well.
Yeah, I've been very impressed by Kyle Myers. Kyle Myers has missed a couple of races in the number 81 machine, but yet he's up there about to get into the playoffs possibly at the end of tonight. And you mentioned Kenny Brady. Unfortunately, Kenny Brady is not in the field here tonight, but he's faced a lot of bad luck this season. He's looking to get into the top 10 as well. Possibly next week we'll see him, as Myers is putting the pressure on Hill here.
Kyle Myers and Kenny Brady, you can't lose hope. You just got to go out there and try and run the best you can, because we're talking about Braxton Duis up inside the top 10 in point standings right now. The driver that he replaced in the top 10 in points was Alan Dobbs, who got the very first stage victory of the season back at Daytona, was very consistent in the first few races. We haven't seen in the last couple of weeks. Subsequently now, he's dropped down to 13th in points outside of the playoff position. So Kyle Myers, Kenny Brady, if somebody up inside the top 10 hits a bit of a streak like that and starts free falling through the points, that's an opportunity to jump up there, take advantage, and move into a playoff position.
Yeah, because we've seen some drivers free fall, and a lot of drivers in this series are not running full time. Like the drivers in the top 10 have ran the whole schedule, but pretty much everyone outside the top 10 has at least missed 1 race, if not 2 or 3. So some drivers are part-time here. It's really all about consistency for some of these drivers who might be struggling a little bit more. If they could just keep their race trucks clean and make every start, there's a good opportunity for the playoffs for them.
Boyd Hogan has worked his way up to 8th after having to start towards the tail end of the field with that commitment cone violation. Coming down pit lane under the second caution, I should say, of the day. He's trying to get up to Richard Malagani for 7th place, but this penalty hurts him in more ways than one. Not only did he lose out on the track position and the clean air out in front, but also now he's back in dirty air and maybe having to push that truck a lot harder than he would have had to had he been up towards the front of the field. So in terms of being able to preserve his tires, I don't think he's got that opportunity right now.
I don't think he has any opportunity to preserve his tires. He has to really push that truck hard and maybe hope that he gets some help with maybe a caution flag or something later on in the race. so we can get some fresher tires, or have to figure out some sort of pit strategy to give him track position. There's a lot of things he can possibly do to get himself back up there, but it's going to be very difficult for that number 96.
Aaron Love just got himself back on the lead lap with that caution. He's got a front row seat of a battle between Chuck Waldrop and James Edens for the 9th position. Just about a lap ago, Edens was into a four-wheel slide, turning hard left to avoid when Waldrop got into the wall off of turn 2. Waldrop has since been able to recover and hold Edens in his rearview mirror for the time being in that 9th position. Further up towards the front, got a good battle going on potentially for second. Braxton Duis keeping the 81 of Kyle Myers honest as they're losing a bit of ground to race leader Christopher Hill.
Christopher Hill is showing off that speed right now in that number 99 truck, pulling away from the number 81. And you mentioned it, Braxton Duis is able to keep up somewhat with Myers. He's a little over half a second behind Myers, and he's kind of kept it around that point. Crampton not too far behind him as well. Some pretty big gaps on the racetrack.
Update on a couple of drivers. It would appear that Brandon Andrews is officially out of the race. He'll finish 16th. Christopher Pfeffer has now officially DNF'd from the race. Spent a good bit of time just sitting on pit lane after his engine failure. He'll finish in 17th. And for Christopher Pfeffer coming into tonight, at least as things stand right now, with Hill leading this race and Crampton up inside of the top 5, it looks like Pfeffer could possibly drop from second to maybe as far down as 4th in the point standings heading into next week at Kansas, where we're going to be bringing you coverage of that race. We'll be going mile-and-a-half racing out in the Midwest on May the 11th. So hope you guys join us next week as we continue on the schedule here for these drivers in the Reaper Speedlab Truck Series.
Yeah, I personally really enjoy Kansas, and we've been talking about tires, and how these last couple of races have been just tire eater sort of tracks, like Bristol, Dover, now here at Darlington. Next week, Kansas, of course, your tires get worn out. You're driving on a racetrack, but Kansas is not nearly as harsh as those racetracks on tires. We'll have to see how those drivers are able to adjust and handle that racetrack.
Tell you one thing I was looking forward to tonight and was a little bit disappointed that I didn't see, and it's the fact that we're here at Darlington during the NASCAR Throwback Weekend, and there's no throwback schemes out here with these trucks. Now, granted, we are coming back here to Darlington again at the end of August, the first playoff race, so maybe, hopefully, that'll be Throwback Week, and we'll see some pretty cool-looking throwback liveries on these machines.
I don't know. I'm seeing Kyle Myers look like he threw his scheme back to his win last week. That's a throwback scheme.
Good call. Good call. I'm seeing, yeah, there's a couple of throwbacks to wins this season, right?
Christopher Hill as well. That's an awesome throwback to 99.
Boyd Hogan continuing the charge there as he's going to get around Daniel Simmons. So it took him only about 15 laps to charge his way back up into the top 5. He is running just a tick under 5 seconds behind race leader Christopher Hill, but good job of damage control there after the costly penalty for the 96. I'm wondering here and now, though, what is the mentality for Boyd Hogan? Would he want to see a caution now to get everybody bunched back up again, or with the pace he's setting right now, would he like to see this thing go green to the end, have everything spaced out, and really be able to kind of pick and choose when he wants to make those passes, when he wants to have those battles, and eventually maybe have the speed to get back up here and battle for the race lead?
Personally, I think the easier route would, of course, be a caution flag coming out, because then he'll be grouped right back up with his teammates, plus Braxton Duis and TJ Crampton. They're all going to be under a blanket there. They'll be in the top 5, but just knowing how a lot of these drivers are in this field, they're really racing for Road to Pro, and they're just looking to have fun and get better. I think Boyd Hogan would probably want this race to go green the rest of the way, and maybe try some strategy to get himself up there to battle his teammate, Hill.
Well, when we went back green, about 85 to 90 laps to go. I'm not exactly sure what the exact lap number was. Pretty certain that they can't go 85 laps on a tank of fuel, so I would assume right now the window is open all across the board for strategies of when these drivers might elect to come down and take that final pit stop. I don't know, which side would you be on? Would you want to come down maybe as soon as possible, take advantage of the time with those fresh tires, or would you maybe want to stretch as far as you possibly can, just in case we might end up having a late race caution come out, because you're going to lose a lap on pit road if you pit under green flag conditions, and if you're in the closing stages of a race, even a lucky dog might not get you back in the running for that checkered flag.
You see, that's a really interesting scenario there, Seth. Usually I would say the driver that pits at the end of the run is gonna have the advantage, but at a track like Darlington where it's just so hard to pass, and when you are passing, you're just using up so much tires. So you're really gonna just have to watch the other drivers and see when they pit. You can't be pitting like 10 laps after a driver. You should be pitting maybe, like for example, if Kyle Myers came in this lap, I would say Christopher Hill has to come in the very next lap or the lap after that. At that point, he's going to fall behind Myers, and it's just so difficult to pass here.
Top two right now are running a 2nd and 3/10 slower lap times than what they put down for their fastest laps of the day. We are right now about 20 laps into this run. You're riding on board with Tanner Love, who was in a good battle moments ago with James Edens for the 9th position, kind of keeping an eye back here around the 86 of Malugani, the 52 of Edens, the 28 of Tanner Love, because you're talking about the possibility of a caution coming out. You kind of have to look where all the trucks are all bunched up.
And that's where the cautions have been coming from today. It's been coming right around that 10th position because they've been just kind of ganged up right there. Drivers like Hill, Myers, Braxton Duis, TJ Crampton, they all have a good amount of speed, but at the same time, all their race trucks are very different on speed. Back there around the 10th position, those drivers' setups seem to be pretty similar on speed and handling, so they're just kind of stuck together and stuck in a sort of a battle back there around 8th, 9th, 10th place.
Daniel Simmons getting the wall there moments ago, trying to hold off Jamie Knopf for the 6th position, and give a shout out to that 48 of Jamie Knopf. You know, we talk about the quick stages that we have here, usually in the first 30 to 40 laps of these races, and while they're important in terms of the playoff point for the stage winner, the stage points for the top 10, I think it's even more so important to keep an eye on who's struggling in the early stages, makes the right adjustment, and then is able to make forward progress or maintain good track position later on in the run. That 48 of Jamie Knopf was in a 4-wheel slide in the early stages of this race. Now he's got himself up there in the 7th spot. Again, back to that point of consistency. Looks like they definitely got that thing going in the right direction. So good job on making the correct adjustment to make him competitive up here and just outside the top 5.
Good job from Jamie Knopf. He's around 40 points, a little over 40 points to the good when it comes to the playoffs coming into this race. So he just needs to continue to spit out these consistent runs of that number 48 machine. And he could very well be in the playoffs at the end of the season.
Not sure if people caught it there just in the back of the screen a couple laps ago, but Tanner Love was way up and into the outside wall off of turn 2 for a good portion of time. Chuck Waldrop, Kevin Roy having to take evasive maneuvers to get around him, as now another truck back there with a bit of issue. I believe that was the 4 of Richard Clement. So a couple of drivers now as these rear tires and that grip starts to go away, slipping and sliding off the corner, especially off of turn 2. And I'm going to go back to the point I was going to bring up before we had that last caution come out, is the fact of the way that this track is built. This track is not a cookie cutter racetrack. It's not the same over in 1 and 2 as in 3 and 4. It's actually kind of like an oval. It's a wider sweeping 1 and 2, and then a more congested, more acute, tighter corners of 3 and 4. So a lot of times we hear drivers say that they have to usually set up their cars, or trucks in this case, for one section of the racetrack and just hope that it works over on the opposite side.
Yeah, Darlington, 2 completely different corners, the most unique track in the world possibly when it comes to an oval, just so unique. And this track is kind of shaped like an egg, and it really be scrambling a lot of these drivers' brains and trucks out there. And we're going to see as this race continues on. This is the longest run we're getting into right now, Seth. We're about to get on to the longest run here in a few laps. And I was looking over here at the chat, and Matt in the chat made a very valid point. This is one of the most difficult pit roads on the circuit, Seth.
We saw even under caution, it's a difficult pit road to get on to. Case in point, Boyd Hogan led the early portions of this race hitting that commitment cone and getting a violation that sent him to the back. He has since worked his way now up to the 4th position. Traffic to deal with now for Christopher Hill. That's the 45 of Julio Villalobos Jr. that he's going around. Now remember, Villalobos Jr. took the wave around under the last yellow flag to get one of his 2 laps back. So he's out there running on over 40 lap old tires, while the other drivers right now are about to complete their 30th circuit on this run.
Myers with a very quick move on the number 45 right there. He was able to get past the 45 a lot quicker than Hill, and then right when I say that, he almost spins off the corner. Great save from the 81 going all the way down to the inside. Now back up to the high side going into 3 and 4. But Myers was able to make up a decent amount of time getting past the number 45 right there. Hill seemed to have struggled a little bit getting past him coming off of the corner in 3 and 4 last time around.
Very fortunate for Kyle Myers. All that excess room down there on the apron, both on the front and back straightaway, for him to be able to gather it back up. They're now going to make their way around Hutchinson, putting him a 4th lap down. Hutchinson right now in the 14th position as things currently run, and going to have a battle, well, not a battle, but a pass for 3rd and 4th. Braxton Duis yields low, allows Hogan to go around for 3rd. TJ Crampton in the tire tracks now going to move up to the 4th position, so drop the 8 of Duis back to the 5th spot.
Once again, a very smart move from Braxton Duis, seeing that Boyd Hogan was much quicker and let him by. And Braxton's been quicker than TJ all day, but you mentioned earlier, Seth, how TJ was falling back from the pack, and it looked like he was just really saving those tires because he's been coming on strong. The only reason Hogan's in front of him because he got held up by the fork truck and almost got into the back of him, and Hogan dived underneath him. And ever since then, Crampton's been all over Boyd Hogan's bumper. So Crampton's taken well care of these tires.
Right now, TJ Crampton and Boyd Hogan trying to work together to get through traffic and get themselves back up there in the hunt for this victory. They are running about 3 seconds behind Kyle Myers and Christopher Hill. There you see translates to about maybe half a straightaway, maybe 3/4 of a straightaway, as now Hogan back to the inside of Troy Hutchinson, that lap machine. Then just up ahead is going to be the 45 of Villalobos. And I would have to assume here too, oh, whoa, what the heck's going on there? A little door banging from Boyd Hogan to Troy Hutchinson there, maybe saying, hey, give me some more room, you're a lap machine, I'm trying to get up here to the front.
Very aggressive move right there, and I've mentioned it in prior broadcasts. You don't really want to make enemies, and he's probably going to pass that 18 truck again, and we'll have to see if maybe there is some sort of retaliation from that, because, yeah, I would agree with you, Seth. It looked like the number 96 of Hogan had a lot more speed than the 18 and just kind of was letting him know that he was in his way right there, hitting him coming across the start-finish line, putting him in the wall.
Finished up our short track stint of Richmond, Martinsville, Bristol, and Dover last week, but Darlington in many respects can race very much like a short track. So to your point, you gotta wonder if that contact there between the 96 and the 18 comes back to bite Boyd Hogan. Still a long ways to go in this one, 60 laps this next time by for Christopher Hill, who still continuing to feel the pressure. I think right now Kyle Myers is in ride mode. He's currently content to just run behind the 99, keep him honest by about 2-3 truck lengths, and is there to capitalize if Christopher Hill has a slip up.
Yeah, Myers has really kept Christopher Hill on his toes. He's just been right there, right behind him. Pretty much this whole entire run has been fluctuating in between 0.2 to possibly a half a second. At points was even almost close to a second during this run, but currently Myers is only a half a second behind his teammate Christopher Hill, just right there if he makes a mistake, maybe trying to save those tires to get to the end of this run, as Boyd Hogan's around 3.5 seconds behind these drivers. Can he get back up there on strategy, or maybe just by pure speed to battle it out with his teammate?
Right now, Legacy Esports 1-2-3, so looking for their second straight sweep of the podium in the last 2 weeks. And obviously, these guys are teammates, but at the same time, they're competitors. Kyle Myers, the benefit of being the second truck, has dove onto pit lane, so he's going to try and take a one-lap advantage on fresher Goodyears.
That could be a pretty big advantage. I'm curious here if they can make it from here. On this pit stop. It's a little far. I don't know if he can make it from here. He might be trying a 2-stop strategy here.
Yeah, about 37 laps that he ran on those tires with 58 laps to go. So yeah, not knowing the full run that you can go on a tank could very well be a two-stop strategy for the 81 machine. Nobody else, doesn't look like, at least up inside of the top 5, is indicating that they're coming to pit road. So yeah, I think you're right. 81 is going to go with a two-stop strategy, and the 99, 96, 61, at least for the time being, appear they're going to go with the one stop to the finish.
Interesting call earlier on in the race before we had gotten that caution around lap 50. I would have said that's a great move. I was literally saying that would be a great move and it could win you the race just because of how much these tires fall off throughout the run. But at this point in the race, I think it's going to be quite difficult to pull that off from the 81 if that is indeed the strategy.
Well, I don't think he's going to pull it off because I'm not certain if he got a pit road speeding penalty or what, but a very lengthy stay on pit road for Kyle Myers. He is now 2 laps down to the race leader. He'll be about 2.5 laps down when he eventually comes off of pit road. It would appear to me that he indeed had a speeding penalty on pit road, and you said it. This is one of the toughest pit lanes to get onto, not only to be able to make the entry, but to get that truck woed down in time before you get to the commitment line.
It is such a difficult pit road, and you got to kind of prep to go onto pit road almost on the back straightaway. Most tracks coming into 3 and 4, you can kind of prep to go onto pit road, but at this track, you kind of need to get on the inside of the track before you even get into the corner and begin to slow it down.
Hogan, he missed pit road. He missed pit road. He was on the right side of the commitment cone. That's going to cost him a lot of time.
I was seeing him in my side eye. That's what I'm talking about. You just need to take it super easy coming into pit road. You can't just go in there full speed and try to make up as much time as you can on pit entry like you can at most racetracks. Darlington, you cannot do that. It's flat down there. You're just going to slide right up the racetrack and past the wall. And some drivers even get into those cones, into those barrels, I mean.
Hogan's going to try again here, and he will make it onto pit road this time. TJ Crampton just ahead of him coming down from the 3rd position. So a couple of drivers from inside of the top 5 ducking onto pit lane. Now you saw that for Boyd Hogan, both times he kind of tried arcing the car down through the center of 3 and 4 to point it to pit lane entry. I have seen in other leagues in the past where drivers will actually run the apron going into turn 3 and follow the apron all the way around through 3 and 4 to get to the access road. Do we maybe see somebody adopt that kind of strategy to make sure they don't miss the pit road entry like we just saw happen to the 96?
Yeah, that's what I was saying, Seth. That's kind of the way I like to do it. I like to pull down on the back straightaway underneath the line and begin to slow down before I even get into the corner. It's just so flat down there. It's just so flat, and you have so much speed down there coming onto pit road. You're trying to make up as much time as possible. Those tires are just going to slide right out from under you.
Julio Villalobos Jr. is on pit lane. He had taken the wave around under the last caution, and so now he's down for service, but he's going to lose a couple more laps as a result. Richard Malugani in the 86 on pit lane, pitting from the 6th position. It's been a quiet but pretty consistent day for that driver, 15th in the points coming into tonight.
Here comes race leader Christopher Hill. He's coming down pit road to make a pit stop. Right now it's coming to 50 laps to go this time by. Can he make it from that point?
Braxton Duis is coming down with him as well. Yeah, about 45 laps now on this run. 50 laps to go. Boy, it could be very tight for these drivers as far as the number on whether they can make it the entire rest of the way on what they're coming down to put in the tank. Jamie Knopf going to stay out and lead a lap or 2. That's the 81 of Kyle Myers on fresh tires going around his outside. I would assume that for the 48 and others that at this point have not come to pit road, if they can go even just another 3 laps, they should be able to make it the rest of the way because they would have split this final run in half.
I think that's the goal here. I'm not sure if a lot of these drivers can make it on one more stop in the remainder of the race, like Christopher Hill and all those drivers that just came out pit road. I don't know if they can make it from that point on that final stop. Very close call for Crampton. All over the 48 coming off that corner, but a driver like Kyle Myers most likely will have to make another stop, and that was his plan. But You saw it, Seth. Look like he had a speeding penalty because Myers is currently still 1 lap down in the 12th position.
And now you've got a potential battle for the lead once everything cycles around between Christopher Hill and TJ Crampton. Right now, they are last trucks on the lead lap in 7th and 8th, but Crampton, who was 3rd when the pit stop cycle began, now finds himself only maybe about 2.5, 3 truck lengths behind the 99.
Yeah, Crampton pitting a little earlier on in the run. And so he's right there behind Christopher Hill at the moment. But Christopher Hill on those fresher tires, so he should be able to pull away fairly quickly, as it looks like our race leader has came down pit road, Jamie Knopf.
Yes, indeed. That turns the reins over to part-time driver James Edens in the 52. Daniel Simmons in the 46 is the last driver we are waiting for as well to complete what we're thinking is going to be the final pit stop of the day. Question marks for a couple of these drivers, but obviously as well as the pace backs down and the tire rubber starts to go away, gives you a little bit more opportunity to be able to save a little bit of fuel if you find yourself 1 or 2 laps short after this final pit stop.
See what these drivers do. Eden's still on the track, Simmons still on the track, and Hill's only around 15 seconds behind Simmons. I know that sounds like a lot, but he's on a lot fresher tires. He's running almost 3 seconds a lap quicker than these drivers. They're losing a lot of time staying out here, so they're definitely hoping they can make it the remainder of the way on fuel and maybe even get some help along the way with some track position.
It's incredible how pit road, something that we don't really use that often in these races, how much of a factor it really plays into the outcome of a race. It was looking like it was going to be about 4 or 5 drivers that were going to battle it out for this win, depending on how the strategy went. Hill, Hogan, Crampton, and Myers. Myers gets hit with the pit road speeding penalty. Boyd Hogan misses pit road entry on his first attempt to pit lane. So all of a sudden, Christopher Hill's looking around and not really seeing anybody that he's going to have to defend this victory from. Now he's able to basically just battle his truck and battle this racetrack potentially for the final 45 laps if, big if, a caution doesn't come out.
That is a big if, Seth. Caution not coming out at a track like Darlington, especially with the difference we've seen in drivers' speeds. We have a lot of drivers that are a little slower and a lot of drivers that are a little quicker, and we still have some drivers on old tires. So that's when you usually find collisions, when you just see drivers at 2 completely different paces. One driver getting a little impatient, the other driver just not quite sure where to go. So we can definitely see some cautions before this race is up. But even if we stay green, I would not give up hope on Boyd Hogan. Boyd Hogan's only 4 seconds behind Christopher Hill. If he times a pit stop correctly, maybe Hill makes a slight mistake getting into the wall or maybe missing pit entry like Hogan did, Hogan could be right back into this race.
Christopher Hill trying to join Boyd Hogan as a multi-time winner on the season. He won very early on in the schedule, second race of the season at Auto Club. He was the runner-up last week at Dover, and right now, as things stand, would be jumping to second in the point standings heading into Kansas next week with his teammate Christopher Pfeffer out of the race with an engine failure. Daniel Simmons has finally come to pit road for his final stop of the day. We're still waiting for James Edens to come down pit road, and I think if we use Edens as a measuring stick right now, he's on his 53rd lap, so if he's able to go that far on what he's got in the tank, I think that now erases the question mark for some of these guys like TJ Crampton and Boyd Hogan that we saw come down pit road in the early stages of that green flag pit stop cycle, that now I think they would be able to make it the rest of the way if they indeed can go over 50 laps.
Yeah, it looks like everybody can make it the remainder of the way on fuel, except for maybe Kyle Myers. I think it'll still be close for him, but he's currently just way out of the race because of that penalty that he had. I think Edens is staying on the track at this point, hoping for a caution, because the caution would come out right now. There would only be 5 drivers on the lead lap. That would give him fantastic track position, and you'd be able to get fresh tires.
Great point right now as things stand. Jamie Knopf is the last driver on the lead lap in that 6th position as TJ Crampton and Boyd Hogan gonna battle it out here. We're on board with the 96, and Crampton's gonna hold him off at least for the time being. Right now, Richard Malugani would be in the free pass position should we get a caution in the 7th spot. And just a little bit of housekeeping as well, because it could be important once we get to the end of the regular season. Richard Clement, we mentioned that he came back into the server, logged some laps. He bypassed Brandon Andrews for 15th, Troy Hutchinson for 14th. He's gone back to the garage area now, so 14th looks like where he will finish. But those extra 2 positions could be important for a guy that came into this race 14th in the point standings and currently 61 points behind the cut line.
I'm just sitting over here watching the lap times. Christopher Hill is just really impressing. He's just continuing to pull away from Crampton and Hogan. Currently, Hill is almost 7 seconds in front of Crampton. A few laps ago, he was 4 seconds in front of Hogan, 2 seconds in front of Crampton. So he's pulled away an extra 5 seconds just in the last few laps. Christopher Hill is putting on a blistering pace right now.
And the thing that he's got on his side as well, not only is Hogan having to deal with PJ Crampton in an attempt to get up to second place, but then once he passes him, his job's not done. He then has to get around lap truck Chuck Waldrop, lap truck Tanner Love, lap truck Kyle Myers, and lap truck Richard Malukani. So there's a lot of barriers right now between the 99 and the 96. But like we've said, if a caution comes out, that erases all of those barriers and brings the 61 to 96 back onto the bumper of the 99 Christopher Hill.
Eden's still on the track, and Hill's going to be at Eden's bumper within the next lap or two. And right when I say that, it sounds like Eden's is coming down pit road this time by as he posts to the chat, and there he goes down to the inside line, and he sent it way too hard, way too much speed. He really had to back it off in the middle right there. He's going to be able to get onto pit road okay, it looks like, in the 52, but he almost missed pit road there for a second.
Yeah, that was close. You talked about just how flat it is to get onto pit road. No banking to lean on, so you carry that much speed, and the truck's going to want to slide back up, almost up into Christopher Hill, the race leader. But fortunately, loaded up enough to stay below those white hash marks and got it onto pit road safely. So Hill officially now takes the race lead back with 36 laps to go. Crampton still has his hands full with Boyd Hogan in second place, and then they've got the 46 of Daniel Simmons right behind them. Simmons currently running a lap down the 11th spot, but I believe, yeah, he's got fresher tires than the 2 drivers ahead of him.
Yeah, Simmons does have fresher tires. He stayed out a very long time. He stayed out with Eden's, but not quite as long as Eden's. And Simmons gets in the wall. He's just pushing that truck so hard. He's right behind Hogan. Gonna try to get past Hogan and the number 61 of Crampton here late in the running, trying to maybe get that lap back. Can he get back up to Hill and maybe get that lap back? He does have better speed than Hill does right now, but I don't know if he'll have enough time, and those tires will probably even out a decent amount by the end of the run.
You know, I had wondered when we were talking about the configuration of this racetrack if the lore that I had in the back of my mind was correct. I just checked. Yeah, the way that this track is configured is based off of when the track was constructed. Over in 3 and 4, there was a minnow pond on the property, and they were allowed to build the racetrack as long as they didn't disturb that minnow pond, hence why it's a much more acute angle, much more of a tighter corner over in the final couple of turns. And you mentioned about Daniel Simmons getting into the wall. The corner exit at a track like Darlington reminds me of another track like Phoenix, where you feel like you can get back in the throttle through the center of the corner and be able to ride it all the way off the corner and onto the straightaway. Next thing you know, that thing just tightens up and the wall comes up on you sooner than you know. Obviously, aero tightness, I'm sure, comes into play with it as well, but it just kind of, like, this is one of those tracks that gives a driver a false sense of security of being able to get back to the throttle and hold it all the way on corner exit. Next thing you know, that thing's just not turning and you're up and into the wall getting a Darlington stripe.
And I think that's why a good thing that these drivers raced Dover last week, because Dover, it's very similar coming out of turns 1 and 2. You just feel like you're very comfortable, very smooth. You hit the gas and all of a sudden you're flying up towards the wall coming out of turn 2. So these drivers had some practice at Dover for that, but Darlington, of course, a way different beast than the Monster Mile.
We were talking about how valuable tires are. Even 2 or 3 lap fresher tires can make a difference. Look at that truck there. 3rd truck in line, Braxton Duis, 4th position. He's got 3 lap fresher tires than Crampton and Hogan up ahead. As these two have been battling and starting to close in on lap traffic, Braxton Duis about to make it a 3-man fight for that runner-up spot, closing in on 30 laps to go.
Yeah, Braxton came down the same lap that Christopher Hill did, and Christopher Hill has continuously pulled away from Crampton Boyd Hogan. He's now a little over 8 seconds in front of these two, and Braxton Duis has caught up to Hogan and Crampton, looking to maybe snag his best finish of the season, maybe get up there and compete for second here in the closing laps. A little under 30 laps to go here at Darlington.
Go up there quickly to the 99 Christopher Hill, and yeah, he's got clean racetrack in front of him. The reason that I kind of wanted to go up there and observe who was around him, what area of the racetrack he was at, was the last time by, he ran a 31.5. Second, third, and fourth ran 31.2s, and they've got traffic in front of them. I wondered if Christopher Hill might be just backing his pace down a little bit here, trying to make sure that he keeps his tires intact, keeps that grip underneath him, and of course as well, if there is a question of being able to make it on fuel, maybe just save a little bit here and there.
Yeah, there's no need to push that truck super hard, and I looked back and it seemed like what had held him up, it looked like he maybe had gotten stuck behind the 45 of Julio Villalobos Jr., who got sideways in front of him, and Hill was able to get past him fairly easily, but it did cost him a couple of tenths on speed. But like you said, Seth, he's way out in front. He doesn't need to necessarily run his fastest laps of the day. He can just kind of take it easy and just hope that it goes green the rest of the way, because if it goes green the rest of the way and he doesn't have any incidents, he should end up in victory lane tonight.
What was looking like was going to be a great day for last week's winner, Kyle Myers, is going south in a big hurry. Ended up having that pit road speeding penalty, fell a lap down. He then, just moments ago, got into the wall, battling for 7th with Tanner Love. He has now lost positions to not only Love, but also Daniel Simmons and Chuck Waldrop, so he is back in the 10th position. This is a guy who in the first half of this race, pretty much the first 2/3 of this race, was running up inside of the top 3.
Braxton Duis has made a move for third, I'd like to add. Braxton Duis has gotten up into the 3rd position, and now he's going to try to attack Boyd Hogan for that 2nd position. He's beginning to pull away from DJ Crampton in the 61, passing him around a lap and a half ago. Now he's trying to get to Hogan's bumper and maybe take that 2nd position away with just over 20 laps to go.
Mentioned Braxton Duis, only one top 5 coming into tonight. That was a 5th place run at the road course Circuit of the Americas. So right now, Braxton Duis is en route to his best finish of the season by far. And as you mentioned, trying to pick up another spot, some smoke there off of turn 4. No caution, so I'm not certain where that came from. I don't see anybody on my telemetry coming to pit road, so I can only assume someone might have had a bit of a slide off that corner. But apparently nothing that was warranting a caution flag to fly.
It didn't look like anything too significant happened. Just some close racing off the corner, and one of those drivers might have gotten a little loose and spit up some smoke right there. And we'll see what happens in these last few laps. Can they keep it green? It looked like Villalobos almost lost it off that corner in 3 and 4 that last time by. All the way on the inside lane, very slow in front of Boyd Hogan right here. He's up into the wall.
Oh, and look out! That was TJ Crampton that almost got into him. Close call for our 2nd through 4th positions.
Here comes Brax.
And he's going to make a charge as Braxton Duis takes a look. Not quite there. They're double wide ahead of him. That's Kyle Myers trying to take 9th place away from Chuck Waldrop. So we've got a race within a race right here. Throw a blanket over about 6 trucks.
Yeah, Boyd Hogan went very low. He went underneath the dotted lines going into 1 and 2 just to avoid the 45. And once he came back onto the banking on the racetrack, he got completely sideways, made a phenomenal save in the middle of the corner, and Braxton Duis was all over his bumper coming off 2 last time by. But Boyd Hogan is able to put a truck length between himself and Braxton Duis for now. Just over 20 laps to go. These drivers are almost 12 seconds behind Christopher Hill. You're not missing anything up at the front.
Hill just logging laps, trying to tick them away as soon as he can to pick up win number 2 on the season. Pretty soon he'll be hitting 20 laps to go here at Darlington. Boyd Hogan right now 11.5 seconds behind Hill in that 2nd spot. He's got Braxton Duis right behind him. Right behind Duis is TJ Crampton, then another 10 seconds back to Jamie Knopf, who right now, 5th place, last truck on the lead lap.
Jamie Knopf.
And we just had ourselves a pass for the lucky dog position there. Daniel Simmons slide jobs on Malogany, so bear that in mind in case we have a late race caution.
Very key move right there for Daniel Simmons, and Daniel Simmons on the fresher tires. Might have the freshest tires in the field other than maybe James Eden's. in the number 52, currently in the lucky dog position. If we would to get a late race caution here, that would put 6 drivers on the lead lap if he's able to get that lucky dog.
Right behind him, Malugani, and then Tanner Love. So right there, with half a second separation, is your three-way battle for the free pass position should we get a caution in these final 20 laps. And if you're Christopher Hill, you mentioned nothing going on up at the front for him right now, no traffic to have to deal with. I mean, what is a driver thinking about right now if you're Christopher Hill? Are you just waiting for something to go wrong? Are you just making sure that you're
Braxton's coming onto pit road. Braxton Duis, sorry to interrupt you, but Braxton Duis is coming onto pit road late. I'm not sure what happened here. He's pit from the second position. The third position. He was having such a phenomenal run, and now he is on pit road here late. I'm not sure what the call is here.
Well, he's got some damage on that right front, but anybody that's gotten up into the wall for the most part here today has had some damage shown on that area of their race truck. So we'll follow up on this and see if this is indeed a scheduled or unscheduled pit stop. The driver who was running third place. Looks like this is a gas and go for Braxton Duis. Boy, does that throw up some big question marks now if a driver inside the top 5 is coming in to top off.
Very interesting right there that Braxton Duis, out of all the drivers, came in to top off. He had some of the freshest tires, and he was one of the last drivers that came down pit road. So it seemed like he more than likely would make it the rest of the way on fuel. But the fact that he came in and literally just got a quick gas and go is a tall tale sign. It might mean that some of these drivers aren't as good on fuel as we thought.
Well, I'm wondering, you brought up the point that Duis was one of the last ones on pit lane, so he would not have necessarily had to take on as much fuel as the other drivers who pitted ahead of him. Did he miss the number of how much fuel he had to put into that truck?
It's very possible, Seth, but if that were the case, that would mean that he changed how many gallons he would want in his truck. And I just don't see any reason to be messing with that in this sort of race. I don't see any reason to be changing how much fuel you want in your tank.
One other driver that came to pit road very late in this race on that last green flag pit stop was James Edens. And he just moments ago, you saw there, round Boyd Hogan in second place, took the 8th spot from Chuck Waldrop. He's got a few trucks to get up there too before he can battle for the free pass position, including Daniel Simmons and Richard Malugani, but they are within striking distance here. Tanner Love currently holds the free pass position, so we've had a little bit of shuffling from 5th back to 7th in the last few laps.
Definitely a lot of shifts around that area. Not up here in 4th position now with Braxton Duis coming down pit road. There's only 4 drivers on the lead lap right now. That is just insane. That really shows how fast this 99 truck is here today. Currently 14 seconds in front of Boyd Hogan. 14 seconds. That's almost a half a lap around this track.
And possible connection problems for the 86 of Richard Malugani, who we mentioned was right in the thick of that battle for the free pass spot. So we'll see if that settles out. Edens gets around Daniel Simmons, move him up to 6th. So only one driver left to beat to get up into the lucky dog spot should we get a caution. And there's about 10 laps difference between the tires on his machine and the tires on Tanner Love's truck. Currently only about a little more than a second ahead, so we certainly know where the advantage is right now in terms of speed, definitely in the camp of the 52.
Well, I know Tanner Love is in there throwing all his water bottles out the window, throwing any debris he can onto the racetrack, hoping for that caution for that lucky dog as Edens is approaching him very quickly in that number 52 machine.
I was wondering if maybe we'd start to see Christopher Hill back the pace off a little bit with seeing Duis come to pit lane, but no, he's continuing to run consistent lap times. As a matter of fact, at that time by, he just ran a 31.498. He's been running the mid 31.5s last couple of times, so that's a lightning fast lap time for 38 old tires for that 99 truck. I think maybe what he's doing right now is he's just trying to set as many qualifying laps as he possibly can to get this race over with, take away the opportunity for a caution to come out.
And just going back to what I was saying earlier and just repeating kind of what you were saying, Seth, I think all these drivers should be good to make it to the finish. And what you were saying earlier on Braxton just not filling up the tank all the way is most likely what happened. But I just don't see how you do that in a race like this. It's a very clinical error for that number 8 machine who is having a career night. It's very unfortunate.
Also kind of brings up the question of what was there to gain, because no doubt was going to take on 4 tires with just how abrasive Darlington is, and usually the amount of time it takes to be able to change those 4 Goodyears is the same amount of time it takes to be able to put 2 cans of fuel inside the race truck. So yeah, really interesting, that scenario there for Braxton Duis, who, again, as we mentioned, was en route to finish in the 3rd position. It would have been his best finish of the season by far, and now all of a sudden he's back in the 10th spot, last truck running 1 lap down.
Yeah, you hate to see it. He's not even in a lucky dog position at the moment. So if a caution would have come out, he wouldn't be able to get any spots back. He's also on old tires as well, so he's not really able to make up any time as well in that number 8 machine. Definitely a misfire on today for that number 8 machine, but we'll continue on the race with these other drivers. Christopher Hill running in the race lead still, 14 seconds out in front. You have Boyd Hogan in second, who has around a 4.5-second advantage over 3rd place, TJ Crampton. Then you have Jamie Knopf in 4th, who's the last driver on the lead lap, who's 25 seconds behind Christopher Hill. Might even get lapped before this race is over and done with. And James Edens has gotten past Tanner Love for that lucky dog position and for that top 5 spot at the moment.
One driver that does not like the landscape of the top 3 right now, based on the fact he's going to be losing some spots in the point standings, would be Christopher Pfeffer. If you're just joining us, even before we got to the completion of our first stage here tonight, the engine went south on Christopher Pfeffer, who had led in the early portions and had dropped back to second behind Boyd Hogan before having the mechanical failure. Pfeffer came into this race second in points, barely ahead of Christopher Hill and TJ Crampton, and right now with them up inside of the podium, looks like Pfeffer is going to drop to around the 4th position in the standings and will look to recover next week at Kansas Speedway.
And that should be a lot of fun next week at Kansas. A very fun racetrack. Drivers seem to drive it very hard. People really enjoy it. It's kind of a multi-groove racetrack as well, so that should be a lot of fun next week at Kansas. We got to finish up this race at Darlington as we have just over 5 laps to go. Do we get a caution before this race ends? Hill is hoping and praying that a caution flag does not come out, because he can smell victory lane. He can smell that Gatorade bath right now.
Well, so far here tonight, the only cautions that we've had for cause have really taken place with multi-truck incidents. And right now, as things run, nobody is really running around anybody else. So the likelihood of the caution coming out seems rather slim, and that's got to be putting a smile on the face of Christopher Hill, who this time by is about to see the flagman up in the flag stand showing him 5 fingers, indicating 5 laps remaining in this race. The gap is over 13 seconds back to Boyd Hogan. Hogan's been able to gap himself by 5.5 seconds back to 3rd place running TJ Crampton. So right now for Hill, Hogan, Crampton, and Knopf, all of them right now look like they would finish on the lead lap in 1st through 4th, barring any mistakes here in these final 5 laps.
I'll have to watch Hill, because he is approaching the lap car of Kevin Roy, who just came off pit road. I don't know if he just did a gas and go or if he got tires in the number 89 machine. I have to check the lap time this time around. No, it looked like he just got a gas and go in that number 89 machine. So Hill might be able to get to that 89 before this race is over and maybe play his cards.
Mentioned that there was some connection problems for Richard Malogany, who was up inside the top 10. Looks like that has dropped him out of the server, and right now he is scored in the 12th position. Julio Villalobos Jr. went to the garage area about 10 laps ago. He's going to be scored in 13th place. So as things stand right now, with 3 laps to go at Darlington, 11 drivers still out there on the racetrack, only 4 of them on the lead lap. Right now, just a bit of a Sunday cruise for one Christopher Hill, who's just trying to get around to that white flag, because if he gets to the white flag, the next flag ends the race.
He wants to get that very important white flag, because a green-white checkered at a track like Darlington just asks for trouble, Seth.
Certainly does, especially with the fact that you know that in all likelihood, The worst you're going to finish in this race, if you're on the lead lap when that caution comes out, is inside of the top 5. So it's kind of a go for broke mentality if you're restarting third back through 5th. But making the easy pass on Kevin Roy there is Christopher Hill. Down the back straightaway, he'll head for 3 and 4 and see the white flag this time. Christopher Hill about to join Boyd Hogan as a multi-time winner this season. He will be second in the point standings to Hogan heading into Kansas next week. Only time will tell of just how close the point standings will be, especially with the fact that, remember, Boyd Hogan got the stage victory here earlier on tonight and got that all-important playoff point.
Here comes Christopher Hill off turns 1 and 2 for possibly for the last time here today, looking to take that checkered flag, this time by only one set of corners remaining for the 99, who's put on a phenomenal show.
It will be 3 wins in a row with 3 different drivers out of Legacy Esports. 2 weeks ago at Bristol, it was Pfeffer. Dover, it was Myers. And tonight, it's Christopher Hill at Darlington Raceway. He has tamed the lady in black, and I'll tell you what, that truck looks pretty doggone clean for having run 200 miles at a track like this.
Yeah, it looks very clean for running that long of a race. And on those last few laps, Braxton Duis was able to make up a spot from Kyle Myers, able to get past him for that 9th position. Jamie Knopf going to be the last driver, finishing on the lead lap in 4th. Very important finish for him and to help his playoff efforts. Great performance on the 48 machine.
Dominating performance here tonight after Christopher Hill got the race lead. Officially 14.3 seconds between himself and teammate Boyd Hogan. And yeah, you don't need those tires anymore. Burn them up here at Darlington Raceway. Christopher Hill, your victor here tonight. Win number 2 on the season.
Phenomenal performance from Hill. We mentioned at the beginning of the show when he started 11th how quickly he was coming through the field. He seemed like he had the fastest truck at that point. I would have loved to see him and Hogan and Pfeffer all together at the end of that race to see what could have possibly happened. And there's the number 99, Christopher Hill, blowing it up on the French straightaway.
I think his crew will be willing to go out there and help push him back to victory lane. It's interesting, too, because you mentioned about him starting pretty deep in the field outside of the top 10. He did the same thing last week at Dover and finished second to his teammate Myers, and he said, I feel like we kind of let one get away there. Some sweet redemption from Dover here tonight for the driver of the 99 at Darlington Raceway. Is let's take a look at the finishing results here this evening. Every driver, every position has a story here tonight. Hill getting the race lead after hardships by Pfeffer and Hogan, his teammates. Hogan, nice comeback run after he had a couple of moments here tonight. Had the pit road miscue after the stage dropped to the rear of the field with a penalty, and then missed pit road for the first attempt to get on pit lane during green flag pit stops. TJ Crampton, he had an eventful day, including almost getting into the 45 of Villalobos Jr. there with about 30 laps to go, but he'll hang on for the final spot in the podium. And Jamie Knopf, his day started out slipping and sliding, but he brings it home in 4th. And James Eden's good run there for the part-time driver, was the last driver to come to pit lane on that last cycle of green flag pit stops, had the tires to fight his way up there, albeit 1 lap down, still inside of the top 5.
Yeah, very good performance from Edens. Tanner Love up there in the top 10. Daniel Simmons. Of course, we mentioned Braxton Duis, how fast he was. Same thing with Kyle Myers. Both those drivers had top 3, top 5 speed all night, and just some bad breaks when it came to pit stops for those two. Put them back at the end of the top 10, unfortunately. And Waldrop with an impressive top 10 as well in the 8th spot.
Very impressive run for him. Kevin Roy was the last driver running at the conclusion of this race in 11th place. Everybody else back in the garage area or on pit lane. The most notable of them would obviously have to be Christopher Pfeffer, who wasn't even involved in a wreck, ended up having a mechanical failure that had him finish 17th place here tonight. He will look to begin the road to recovery, gain back those points he lost here tonight next week at Kansas. But it's time now to talk to some of our podium finishers here tonight who had to deal with the lady in black. And let's see if we can talk with the guy who started out the season with a trip to victory lane at Daytona, TJ Crampton. Hey, TJ, it's Kyle and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Well, man, I'll tell you what, tough race here today. It certainly looked like for all of you drivers. I believe everybody's leaving with that souvenir, the Darlington stripe. But I mean, what were some of the things that you were dealing with, especially out there today? Because it seemed like Darlington had a lot of stuff it was throwing at you guys.
Yeah. I didn't really get my Darlington stripe till later in the race. I made some mistakes after the first green flag pit stop, and I hit the wall like twice. So that was kind of frustrating, but it was interesting for sure. The track didn't have a lot of grip, but I had no front grip. I was pushing and then snapping on exit, so it was very interesting for me on the long run. But managed to pull off with a P3.
We ended up seeing that pit road played a big part into the outcome of tonight's race. A lot of front runners having some issues with it. How much emphasis did you put into practicing getting onto pit road here this week, knowing that the potentiality of green flag pit stops would be taking place?
Um, I kind of don't believe I got on pit road perfectly fine the first time. I did no practice in this session or before the race, so I don't know how I got on pit road perfectly. But I guess it's just previous years of doing iRacing here at Darlington. But no practice coming into this, just pure uh, some skill, mostly luck.
We've ended up having kind of the short track stint back to back to back to back short track races. And of course, here tonight, we know that this track is over a mile in length, but in a lot of ways, with the beating and banging and the tight corners, this track can also, in many respects, be like racing at a short track. Next week, we go to a wider mile and a half at Kansas, and we know that you're very good when it comes to the high speed racetracks. So, what's the thought process now as the consistency continues here for the 61 team?
You just said it, consistency. Just every week trying to aim for a top 5, top 10. If I can do that, I'd be pretty happy. So Kansas, definitely looking forward to it. Uh, I would like to think I'm pretty good at running the wall. Sometimes I'm not, but all depends. Hopefully, we can bring a good piece to Kansas and have a good run there.
TJ, a great run for you here tonight. Third place performance. Congratulations on surviving the Lady in Black. And now we're going to give the opportunity to thank some sponsors and do some shout outs.
Yeah, I want to thank Matthew at JEM Racing. He's always a great team owner and supports me in every way. I want to thank Splash and Go Graphics. I painted my throwback truck. I think I forgot to run it this week, but I'll bring it out a few more races this season. And just you guys for broadcasting. It was fun to rewatch the races on YouTube.
Well, we got another Darlington race coming up the end of August. Maybe we'll see that throwback scheme there. But congratulations, TJ, and a well deserved run here tonight. Best of luck next week at Kansas.
Thank you.
All right, let's see if we can get our runner up finisher here tonight, the three-time winner, Boyd Hogan. Hey, Boyd, it's Kyle and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
And I'll tell you what, we know that this racetrack out on the racing surface is tough enough to conquer, but pit road here tonight seemed like it was really out to get you. You ended up having the commitment violation after the
Oh,
first stage, missed pit road entry there on that first attempt during the green flag pit stops. I mean, man, you had quite a comeback there to get to second place, but how hard you have to fight for it.
um, it wasn't too bad the second run there. I kind of knew the bed was made unless a caution came out, so I think we're all just kind of. I mean, for the most part, we were riding. I had a good little battle with TJ there. I had a lot of fun with. But yeah, it was just I used up the tires trying to get past so many guys there because it's a bit of a trade-off. Like you can save a little bit of tire, but at the end of the day, like still coming through the field with how much dirty air there is and how hard it is to pass. Even if you got a truck as good as what I felt like ours was here tonight, it doesn't do too much in dirty air regardless. So you end up using a lot of tire, and then by the time I got by TJ, the first run there, it was gone. And then I mean, obviously the commitment cone violation is kind of what did it. I didn't think it was actually gonna get me with that. I didn't think that was it, but that was my mistake. And then messing pit road there, I thought TJ was gonna try coming down there with me, and I didn't want to risk getting run over, so it was just kind of aborted the lap. And but yeah, it was a good race, and I had fun. Good win to Chris, man. Hell yeah. It's another one for the boys.
Obviously a dominating performance here tonight by Legacy Esports. Yourself, Hill, and also we saw earlier on in this race, Pfeffer out in front leading a good portion of that first stage. But we talk about the fact that in the last few weeks, you guys have had the opportunity with early stage cautions to come down, make the adjustments you need for the second half of the race. And here tonight and last week at Dover, we saw those long green flag runs. So obviously, you guys having to nail those adjustments to have the truck you need, especially on the longer runs, getting ready to come to pit road for green flag pit stops. But I want to go back to the battles that we saw going on between yourself and Christopher Pfeffer back in that first stage, because we
Yeah.
were really surprised when we saw the engine go south on the 66. Can you tell us what happened there, and did that then lead you and the rest of your teammates to maybe make some adjustments to avoid having mechanical failure yourself?
Man, I told his ass he wrecked himself. I don't. I mean, I was trying to roll as much center speed as I could, but he was trying to roll about 5 miles an hour more than I was because he said he was trying to apply pressure. So that's fine, but we both ended up hitting the fence and hurting the trucks. But because I hit it in front of him, it gave him nose damage, and that ended the night. It wasn't none of it was necessary, but I don't know. I mean, with these guys, it's we all work really well together as a team. But holy hell, we'll race the shit out of each other.
Obviously tonight as well, a stage victory for you, so add another playoff point to the bank here when we eventually get to the end of the regular season. I mean, obviously I know that when every driver straps into their trucks, they're looking for that checkered flag, but are you the mentality to go out there and get those points for the postseason?
Yeah, I mean, you always want to kind of build up as much as you can, and I think overall we've kind of, I mean, it's been pretty spread out. We've all been pretty competitive amongst ourselves. I know Kenny and Andrew and all those guys kind of stacked up on theirs as well. So it's gonna be a little bit of a battle, especially when we get to like a little round of 8 and Final Four and stuff like that. It's gonna be really interesting when we get there. So I think your playoff points are gonna start counting a lot, and I don't know, like you definitely want to start off with them in mind. But obviously, with doing the R&D stuff for Road to Pro, you kind of have to weigh out the options there because sometimes strategy changes around that as well. So it's a little bit of a management game. It's a little bit of we're all kind of out here on these off weeks testing different things, and I mean, yeah, you're trying to get all you can because there's a lot of good dudes in here at the top end of it for sure.
A strong truck here tonight for you, Boyd, able to bring it back into the second position here this evening. Well done to you, and now we're going to give you the opportunity to thank some sponsors and some people that got you to this point here tonight.
Yeah, I just want to thank Kevin Kirchar, Kale Gale for all they've done for Legacy to help out the team. Blackstone Management Champion, Timmy Pacioli. I don't know if y'all got the black and yellow champion paint on there or not, but god damn, that is a nice truck. So thank you to him for that. Um, Reaper Speed Lab, check us out there. Really, really good stuff going on. Vicente's got his driver coaching that's been going pretty good, and I know we've had a good amount of people going into the top 70 here for Road to Pro, so that's exciting. And thank you to everybody on Legacy who's helped out on the truck this week and has every other week, just like I don't know, well-oiled machine, I guess.
Well, Boyd Hogan brings it home second place here tonight. Legacy Esports definitely has the momentum on their side. He'll look to translate that maybe to win number 4 next week at Kansas. Until then, congratulations on a great run there, Boyd.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for putting on the show.
And now let's see if we can go down to victory lane and talk with his teammate. Second time this season, Christopher Hill is waving a checkered flag here in the Reaper Speed Lab Truck Series. Hey, Chris, it's Kyle and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I gotcha.
Oh, man, we didn't get to talk to you back in mid-February when you got that first checkered flag at Auto Club, but man, strong run here tonight. As soon as that 99 got a whiff of clean air, you were gone. Execution on pit road was on point. It looked easy up here in the broadcaster's booth. I'm certain that wasn't the case, but that truck looked pretty clean. Just how much of an adventure was it out there?
Honestly, stage one was just about not killing the car. I mean, I knew what potential it had once it got to clean air, so it was really just waiting for a mistake or just waiting just for the opportunity. And I guess Boyd had a penalty at that first caution that wasn't the stage caution and gave me clean air. That was the mistake I needed. And from there, I mean, it drove like a dream in clean air. So, I mean, that's all I needed.
You know, we've seen now 2 weeks in a row going back to Dover where you don't necessarily have the best qualifying effort, but you have maybe one of the best trucks on the long run. We were also mentioning how difficult it is to pass at a track like Darlington, and you were picking them up and setting them down back there in that first stage. Has that kind of become your MO, focusing on that long run, giving up the speed in qualifying?
Um, qualifying has never been my strong suit, but I think just dirty air is such a factor across the A, B, and C cars. So I mean, just being able to maneuver in dirty air and knowing what you have to do to pass is, I mean, it's everything because you can't rely on qualifying every week. It's a hard thing to keep up with. So having the ability to pass cars, I think, is worth more than you can really give it credit for.
Now, with this win here tonight, you do a couple of things. You're more than likely going to pass Christopher Pfeffer for second in the point stands. You also now become the second driver to have multiple wins on the season. We head next week to the mile-and-a-half track of Kansas, so do we see win number 3 there?
I foresee us to have a very good car. We've already worked on that a little bit. So, I mean, everybody at Legacy puts a lot of time into all these cars. I mean, we don't ever show up with a half put together piece. So, I have a good feeling that our whole team will be somewhere towards the front. It should be a good battle amongst ourselves, and I'm sure Andrew and Kenny and them will be quick next week too. So, I think we'll be in the mix for it.
Well, Christopher, congratulations on a job well done here tonight. Kept your nose clean. I think you might be one of the few drivers that's leaving this track without a Darlington stripe. So well done on you. And now we're going to hand the mic over to you for some victory lane. Thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Yeah, I got to thank everybody over at Legacy Esports. They put a lot of time into all the cars. I got to thank Kevin Kirchar, Blackstone Management, everything they do for Legacy Esports. Thanks to you all for putting on the broadcast.
Well, that's Christopher Hill, parks in victory lane for the second time this season. Tonight, he tames the lady in black at Darlington. Congratulations, Chris. Go enjoy the victory, and we'll see you next week at Kansas.
Thank you all.
And that is going to conclude our coverage here tonight. This is a track that can get to you mentally, it can get to you physically. We saw a little bit of it here tonight with drivers having some mistakes on pit road, but execution seemed to be the name of the game. Christopher Hill here tonight, Kyle, seemed to be the driver that certainly exemplified that.
Yeah, Christopher Hill, from the moment we dropped the green flag, seemed like he might have had one of the fastest trucks, if not the fastest trucks. And when he was able to get that track position and get up to the lead, he just did not look back. Christopher Hill had a phenomenal day and gets his second victory of the season heading into next week at Kansas.
At Kansas next week, it's going to be the third mile-and-a-half racetrack that we go to this season. If we kind of go back to the last track we were at of this type of configuration, comparing Kansas, it would have to probably be Las Vegas, where Boyd Hogan went to victory lane, and a number of those Legacy Esports drivers finished up there as well. Pfeffer was second, Christopher Hill was third. So do we look in that Legacy Esports camp for the winner next week, or do maybe somebody like a TJ Crampton, a Jamie Knopf, who were strong here tonight, do we see them maybe get up there to the front and snag a victory?
I can definitely see TJ Crampton being up there competitive. If we see Kenny Brady out there next week, I can see him being very competitive as well. And don't count out Braxton Duis. I'm reading in the chat, he actually came a gallon short on fuel tonight, which is very unfortunate. He was very fast, but Braxton Dewis, the last couple of weeks, has really been picking it up. Was really fast last week at Dover, had some troubles, had one of the fastest trucks out here tonight, had to pit late for gas. So he's a driver I would watch out for as well. The number 8 machine. Don't count out those other Legacy Esport guys like Kyle Myers, Tanner Love, and those other guys. We might see them compete for the lead as well. Casey Tucker as well.
There's still a long ways to go in this regular season as well. We got about 2-3 races before we even hit the midway point of the regular season to determine the 10 drivers that will battle for the championship. So still a lot of opportunity for drivers to find victory lane, get those stage points, those stage victories, and of course as well make their way up into the top 10 in the point standings. We continue on the season next week as we'll be heading to the Midwest Kansas Speedway. We'll bring you coverage next Wednesday night with the green flag scheduled to fly at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you join us for that. We appreciate you joining us here tonight for coverage at Darlington Raceway. Once again, Christopher Hill, your winner at the track Too Tough to Tame. Kyle, it's been a great one here tonight. A lot of strategy coming into play. Appreciate you joining me up in the booth.
I appreciate you having me up in the booth. A very good day from Christopher Hill and from a lot of the Legacy Esport drivers, and we're looking forward to next week at Kansas to maybe see some multi-groove racing at some high speeds.
Absolutely. Well, once again, thanks to everybody that tuned in here tonight. For Kyle Lawrence, I'm Seth Cole. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday evening, folks, as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.